Hello, everyone. We are finally live. I hope the anticipation didn't kill you. I am Nick with Mysterious Galaxy. I'm the director of events here for the store. I have two surprisingly wonderful authors with you today. Of course, we have Mary Robinette Kowal and Lev AC Rosen. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So nice to be here.
I'm very jealous because they get to have fancy cocktails and I don't. I get to have a giant jug of water right next to me, but it's fine. I'm hydrated.
Well, hydration is an important thing, so I support your water.
Mary Robinette is the author of the Hugo Award, Nebula, and Locus Award-winning alternate history novel, The Calculating Stars, the first book in the Lady Astronaut series. Her stories appear in ASIMOV'S Uncanny and several years of best anthologies. Lev AC Rosen writes books for people of all ages, including Camp, which was a Best Book of the Year from Forbes, Elle, and The Today Show, among others, and is also a Lambda finalist in ALA Rainbow List Top 10. Now, today, we are here for Mary Robinette's latest book. It's not even out yet today. It's out tomorrow. The Spare Man. Yes. Lev, what about yours? Throwing shade. And for anyone who has pre-ordered the book or purchases any others of Mary Robinette's books, we will not only have some cool book plates for you, but Mary Robinette is going to supply some really cool swag. And for maybe one lucky person who has purchased the book, what else?
Should I show them the cool swag first, or show them the one lucky person thing?
Let's show the cool swag and then the one lucky person thing.
So people who get the book will get a boarding package. So you get a fancy brochure.
That's amazing.
So you want to make sure that you have your boarding package. You want to make sure that you have your postcard from the R-Bar. And then for one lucky person in a random drawing tonight, gets their very own gimlet.
Yeah, it's so cute.
I know. I cannot begin to describe to you how soft this is, and I am a writer. This dog is so soft. So we're going to do a random drawing from one person who buys the book from Mysterious Galaxy, and this gimlet will arrive at your home. So
if you want to even put in your order now, I guess the internet gods are not being very nice to us because I looked like I'm lost Mary Robinette, or is she still there?
I don't have her either.
Okay. Well, hopefully she'll be rejoining us momentarily. I'll keep looking. Gotta love those internet gods tonight. But yes, by the end of the program, I will go ahead and do a random drawing of those who have up to that point purchased the Spare Man. Hello.
I was like, Gimlet is so cute. She killed the internet.
Broke the internet.
The internet died of adorableness. I'm even plugged into I'm even like hardwired, like just to be on the safe side.
I don't know. We're just having lots of fun tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and disappear real quick. But as a reminder, go ahead and click the link below, pre-order The Spare Man, or get any of other Mary Robinette books. Also, you can pre-order Lev's upcoming novel, The Lavender House, or just Lavender House, sorry, which comes out on October 18th. He's got that book for sure, ready to show it. And you can pre-order on that same link that takes to the website.
Thank you.
All right. And it looks like some of you already found the link to put some questions in. If any more of you have some wonderful questions you want to ask later in the program, click the link below and put them in. I will see you all later in the program.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Hey there.
Hi. It's so great to see you, Mary Robinette. I feel like
I know.
We did a book event a decade ago.
I know. I was thinking about that. It was like in New York.
Like
it was KGB,
something like that, which makes me feel deeply old.
I like to think of it as deeply seasoned. Deeply seasoned.
Yes, I've been well seasoned.
yes, likewise. I know that we are supposed to be here for mine, but I I have to say how much I really, really love Lavender House.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. It's a little nerve-wracking. We're like a week away, so I'm like, oh God.
Right. Oh, believe me, I know. Yeah, it's such a good murder.
I cannot speak highly enough about this book either that we're about to talk about. I mean, I could just go 40 minutes like sort of describing things and fanboying out, but I don't think that's what people are here for. So I'm going to restrain myself. But it is excellent because when they first sent it to me, and I just got the e-copy, which is why I couldn't hold anything up. But when they first sent it to me, I was like, oh, is she doing what I think she's doing? And this is how I've described it to everyone, which is Thin Man in Space. And I love the Thin Man movies. Like my parents were showing me the Thin Man movies from the time I was like 5 years old. And so I was like, oh gosh, she is. And then it was good. Like it was so good. It like hit everything that I loved about the Thin Man, but it modernized it and it added all this interesting stuff. I mean, obviously it also science fictioned it, but like it took the things that were already very modern and pulled them forward. And it took the things that were not so modern because they're movies from like the 40s and it made them very modern and it made it work in a way that felt fresh and familiar all at the same time, which I always think is the perfect combination. So I'm so excited to talk about this. And hilariously, the question I was going to open with is already in the question. This is what people are already asking about. What are we drinking? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Negroni. Negroni is my go-to cocktail for like easy, delicious. It's for people who've never had one. It's 1 part gin, 1 part sweet vermouth, and 1 part Campari. I am using Uncle Val's gin, which is a very citrus-forward gin, and it makes it into like a totally different cocktail experience. But it makes me super happy. I thought about doing what I've been doing this week is grabbing the book and opening randomly. I'm like, I'll make this cocktail from my book. And oddly, the Negroni is not actually in there. I have a Boulevardier. No, I have a Boulevardier, but I didn't do a Negroni. They make Negronis. They make a Negroni, but I don't think I didn't use it as a chapter title.
For every chapter, for those who haven't read the book yet, every chapter begins with a drink recipe. And that makes perfect sense with the vein of the book and the vein of some of the influences. I am drinking a Lavender House, which Mary created especially for me. And it is, I have already forgotten, it is Empress Gin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lillet Blanc.
Mm-hmm. Lillet Blanc.
And then some dashes of lavender bitters, which I didn't know were a thing. And you'd think with the lavender it would go soapy, but it's very like, it's like a floral martini.
Yeah, which is exactly what it is, because I switching to the, I mean, it's switching to the Lillet instead of vermouth gives it much more floral characters, which is in keeping with the book.
Yes, the book has a lot of flowers in it. And let's not forget the heavy dose of self-promotion that goes along in this too.
Yes. I almost made one for myself. I thought about it, and then I was like, I actually don't. Oh,
one drink recipe in the book that you did make up. Which one was that?
There's more than one.
There's more than one. I thought there was just one.
No. I made up a bunch actually. So I made up Amal's Hospitality in the afterword, which was not probably in yours. Amal's Hospitality, Frisky Business, Orbital Decay, Reckless Generosity, Magician's Nibbling, and Dangerous Words.
Oh my goodness. I think I figured out the orbital decay. Oh boy, that Lavender House is strong. Or you mentioned it to me. But yeah, I almost want you to read all of those aloud so that everyone can make their own drinks. But I since we started late, I think that I'm going to get to the part where I actually ask you to tell us a little about your book and what it's about.
So it is It's The Thin Man in Space. It's for those people who've never seen The Thin Man. It's a happily married couple. In this case, they're on their honeymoon cruise. They're newlyweds, going from the moon to Mars. That is not in the original films, but going from the moon to Mars with their small dog Gimlet. Tesla is an heiress. Her husband Shal is a retired detective. Their small dog Gimlet is Tesla's service dog, and she's got chronic pain and PTSD. Anyway, someone gets killed, as happens on cruise ships apparently, and they have to solve the crime because Shal has been pegged by security as being the villain. And so, chaos and murder and small dog shenanigans.
Yeah, all on a very fancy cruise to Mars.
Very fancy cruise, yes. Which is, yeah. I have been on a number of cruises, and so a lot of the ship is based on cruise lines that I've actually been on.
You do the
parts of the ship
cruise, right?
The Writing Excuses cruise, right? And then the Joko cruise, and then there's another cruise line that I was on. All of the parts of the ship that are wonderful are Royal Caribbean. All of the parts that are really not are MSC. MSC is a cruise line that, just, if you leave your cabin and you come back to your cabin and there's yellow caution tape, you have some concerns. And they painted my cabin with marine enamel. While I left to teach a class and I came back and had been painted. It was the entire cruise was like that. I did in fact base some things on some of the less good things on them.
Well, I mean, so you have these influences. Like I knew about the cruises. I knew about Thin Man, obviously. And you mentioned in one of the afterwards that Tesla's disability and device are inspired by watching your mother deal with her illness. So we know where the inspiration comes from. I'm not going to ask you that, but I am so curious as to how these various bits of inspiration sort of click together in your brain to create Thin Man in Space.
So I think it starts with watching the Thin Man movies, just because I love them, and there was, how it is where sometimes you say a collection of words out loud and then you're like, oh, I'm doing that. And so I had been watching the Thin Man movies, and someone was asking me like, what is high concept? I'm like, well, high concept would be something like something easily described, like Thin Man in Space. I'm like, hold that thought.
It just spurted out of you, and then you had to do it. That's fantastic.
And I'm like, okay. And then I was wanting to do something on a cruise ship, had been thinking, something on a cruise ship because I kept going on these things. And that kind of came up and nestled alongside the Thin Man in Space. I'm like, well, obviously it's a space cruise, because there are parts of the Thin Man where in later ones where they're on a train, there's in automobiles. So how do you translate Nick and Nora into the future? And her father, Nora's father, was a sawmill baron. And in my headcanon is that, which is clearly not something that is in any way violating anyone's copyright. My headcanon is that Nora's father may have had some fairly heroic tendencies, that he performed with a suit of armor that he could shoot things out of his hands. Definitely not any copyrighted comic book characters. That were definitely not. No. But anyway, so it's just all of the things kind of wandered together in my head. And then as I was writing it, I would I've learned to reach for personal experiences where I can. That tends to make my writing more universal in some ways, weirdly. So some of the things I know exactly where they came from, and other things I'm like, I have no idea. My brain just coughed that up.
I mean, I just think it's fantastic how you took all these, to me at least, disparate things and influences and wove them together so elegantly. So you knew you were going to be doing Thin Man in Space. That's sort of the impetus, the seed.
Yeah.
Which means immediately, oh, you got to do a mystery.
Yeah.
Had you done what you would consider a sort of traditional mystery before?
I had the Ghost Talkers. Ghost Talkers is a mystery. It is a wartime spy novel version of a mystery, but it's definitely a murder mystery. And then Relentless Moon has mystery elements. It's much more in the thriller vein. It's like
I wasn't expecting you to mention that one, but now that you say it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is a mystery component to it, but it is a pretty straight up thriller. But Ghost Talkers was definitely a murder mystery. And then I wrote a couple of different short murder mystery short form, short fiction things, and those. But this was the first. Is it the first? Yeah, I guess this is the first one that's like just murder mystery in space, but it's not like, and also a wartime spy novel.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's also, a sort of space. I mean, there's so many details about, and I want to talk about the technology too. And like I was thinking earlier, when we're talking about trouble with the internet, she had this whole conversation with their lawyer in the book that are delayed more and more as they get further and further along their journey, that are just so funny. But what I was going to ask is, okay, so you've done mysteries before, and I remember Ghost Talkers, and I was wondering, since we know now, or I know now, that it was Nick and Nora in space, did you start crafting the mystery first? I mean, it sounds like obviously you had a general sort of setting in space, but like where in the process does that crafting of the plot itself begin? And did you know who did it from the start? How did you put it all together with this unique set of influences and the setting?
So the first title for this was Have Spacesuit Will Murder. That was a great spit take. I am so sorry.
That's a great title.
Yeah. But not a Nick and Nora title, right? So I was tossing around a couple of different things. Let me see if I can talk around this without spoiling either the Thin Man or the Spare Man.
I feel like the Thin Man's been out for decades. It's okay for a little spoiling.
Okay, so the basically someone goes missing in the Thin Man. And one of the things I always am interested in is inverting things. So if I take, someone goes missing, then what does that mean here? And, what's the thing that happens a lot on cruise ships, and that's stowaways. In the Thin Man, Nick does all of the investigating, and Nora is kind of kept out of it. So what do I do to flip that so that my Nora is doing the investigating and Nick is forced to be kept out of it? And I honestly thought about doing it as a gender flip completely and having the Nora character be the detective, like be an actual detective, and decided that I was less interested in that. that it's less interest. It was less interesting for me to, seeing someone who's good at their job do their job is satisfying sometimes, but it's not nearly as interesting as seeing someone who is good at their job have to be good at somebody else's job.
Mm-hmm.
And then, using the skills that she has. So it was a lot of looking at inverting things and then also things that always, that are constants, like Thin Men is right after Prohibition ends, so cocktails are all the way through it.
Oh boy, yeah.
Like my people do drink like tea and water at times. If someone saw an early review say they drink constantly, I'm like, not if you've seen the films.
Oh, yeah. To prepare for this, I rewatched it, and my husband had never seen it, and we were watching it with my parents as well. And at one point, my husband was like, "Do they drink anything besides alcohol?"
Coffee, I think, at one point.
At one point, yes, I think for
no,
a hangover.
But then they pour alcohol into it.
Oh, you're right, they do. I can tell you, I can tell the audience, if they haven't seen The Thin Man, in the first 5 minutes, Nora comes into a bar looking for Nick, and he is there and drinking, and she says she's been looking for him, and he's clearly a little drunk, and she says to the bartender, "How many has he had?" And she says, "Well, that's his sixth." And she said, "I'd like you to bring me 6 of those and line them up right here."
Yep, gotta catch up. Yeah, it opens with him teaching the bartender how to make a martini, which is part of why I started. Chapter 1 is martini.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I was like, oh my, there's so many details in it that made my heart sing as a fan of The Thin Man. But yeah, no, I think what you're talking about in terms of inverting these tropes is so clever too, especially because in the movies, Nora, is constantly left out of it, but she wants in so bad. She at one, she's constantly sort of trying to become part of the investigation in a way that feels sort of proto, second wave feminism, a little early for that, but in a way that speaks to sort of a really fun back and forth teasing relationship that you see in sort of Screwballs.
Yeah.
And so reading this was like getting to watch her do that finally, and it was so satisfying in that regard.
Yeah, well, and I love, one of the things that I love about the films is how much trust the two of them have for each other.
Mm-hmm. They're like,
there's a scene. So yeah, they are a loving couple, and there's a scene where Nora walks in, and Nick has a woman in his arms, and in another, someone else would have been like, oh, and she's like, oh, you're comforting her, and they make faces at each other, but it's so playful, and she's not even remotely threatened, and those are the couples that I love to read and love to watch.
I think that you also love to write them based on I think that this couple is so loving too, and also you get to be a little sexier than they were in The Thin Man. There were a few moments where I was like, oh my, because I'd gotten so into the Thin Man mentality. I was like, they wouldn't show this on screen.
They do not have 2 twin beds.
No, they do not. So I thought that, again, the modernization of some of the things that felt like they need to be brought into the future, and it's so smart. But I as much as I could wax, about the comparisons between these two all day and how thrilling it is, I do want to talk more about the science, because that's the thing I totally don't understand. And you had sort of a afterword about the science, and there is this, I've already forgotten the name, this thing that happens as she's walking around certain areas of the ship. What is it called?
Coriolis effect.
The Coriolis effect. And I was reading this partially on a long train ride, and I remember at one point getting up to go to the bathroom while the train was in motion and being like, the Coriolis effect.
Yeah, especially if they happen to go around a curve. Right.
So I want to hear all about the science and the research you did, because it sounded so interesting.
So a lot of it was research that I had done for the Lady Astronaut books. As soon as you start thinking about a centrifugal ring, the way most people depict centrifugal rings in space are based on movies that they've seen that are space stations. And if you have something under thrust, it's a very different experience. So this is the ship, but you'll notice when you...
I didn't get that.
No, you didn't, because it was, yeah.
Oh.
But you notice that this angle here. So if you think about, cross section of the ship, most people think the cross section is perfectly flat, but it actually has to be canted at an angle, because with the centrifugal effect, the spinning is pushing you out, but if you're under thrust, the thrust is pushing you down. So you have to have it cocked at an angle like that in order to have a down that is in any way consistent. Then, when you're spinning, this will work. Mission patch that I just happen to have here. So if I try to throw something straight across, right? That's fine. But let's say that this is a person, that's a person, that's a person. So if I'm throwing this straight across, and my hand is going straight across, but it's still going to land here. It's still to the people within that space, it's going to look like it curves in space.
And so that's what it feels like.
So that's what it feels like. So anytime you turn, you are getting two signals. One is that you are turning, and the other is that you are turning. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm someone who gets motion sickness in cars, so I'm already like, oh, this would be bad for me. No cruises in space for you, Lev.
Yeah, that's why she did not want to go to the Mars level, because, again, looking back at my thing, because the Mars level is farther in, the spin is faster.
That makes sense. So it's more severe.
Right. So the spin is it's not the spin, it's the ratios are smaller, because it's smaller. You feel the Coriolis effect even more. So on the Earth level, the floors are big enough, the distances are big enough that the floor can be flat, and you can experience a flat floor. But on the Mars level, all of the rooms, the floor would have to have a slight bow to it in order for down to be in a consistent direction.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. And you knew all this from research for Lady Astronaut series.
A lot of it. And then yes, drunk or boat is a thing you play on cruise ships, drunk or spacecraft.
And so did you it's not really, without getting too spoilery, it's not a huge plot element per se, but it is almost, it adds to the tension and the atmosphere, and it does make some things happen in a particular way. And so did you, especially at some key moments, did you take that into account as you were plotting? That's so smart. I love that so much. You were like, here's a device I get to use.
Yeah. It was, as soon as I saw this video, it's a National Geographic video of people throwing a ball across like a very small spinning carousel. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, things that curve in space, the murder weapon not coming from where you think the murder weapon is coming from, bodies not coming from where you think the bodies are coming from. Like, you try to defend yourself by throwing something at somebody and it goes whipping off in the wrong direction. Like, there's so many opportunities there.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And you use them so well, because there's so much stuff happening. And I understood it within the context of the book. And certainly the mood. Oh my God, every time she was walking and talking about it, I was like, oh God, it's real scary in here. But yeah, so seeing the actual demonstration though makes it, that's so cool. I'm just going to keep saying that's so cool for a while. So let me go on to my next question, because in 5 minutes, I'm going to start asking folks, if you haven't already asked a question. I see we have 7, but I think at least 4 were about drinks. So if you have a question, please do ask a question. I'm going to start asking those in 5 minutes. But the other thing I wanted to ask about was Gimlet. In the Thin Man movies, there's Asta the dog, and so this is one of the ways I thought you modernized it so well, that it was a pet in the movies, but now Tesla has a service dog in the form of Gimlet. And I wanted to know about the inspirations of that. I want to know if Elsie had anything to do with it. You have a talking cat. And I want to know all about how that, how you created Gimlet.
Yep. So Gimlet is based on a real dog. She's based on 2 real dogs. There is an actual real live Gimlet who is a Westie, who belongs to the extremely talented author Eileen Cook. And I was at Eileen's house and telling her about the thing, and that I was struggling with naming my Asta. And then I'm like, oh, hang on, Gimlet is the perfect name. And so I just put Gimlet wholeheartedly into the book. And initially, Gimlet was not a service dog.
Oh.
And no, initially, Gimlet was just a dog. And then I was like, it didn't, the deeper in that I was kind of, I don't know, I was like, not quite to the halfway point, but I was pretty deep in when I'm like, Tesla has PTSD. Like, a service dog makes sense for her. And the other dog that Gimlet is based on is my mom's service dog, Captain. And he's a stability dog. And he's a chocolate lab. And when they gave him to us, they said he's a dog, not a robot, which is 100% true. He will eat anything that is not pinned down. While being a very good boy. So I kind of combined the 2 of them. I thought about giving her a stability dog and decided not to, because service dogs really, they have specific tasks and behaviors. And so the things that you have to do as a service dog for a PTSD are very different than what you have to do as a stability dog. And so you could have one or the other. And I decided that it was more important for Tesla's independence for her to have a PTSD dog than for her to have a stability dog.
I think, I think you did it so well too, because Gimlet is such a dog. And then there are moments where Gimlet is like clearly a service dog, and it's very natural the way it happens. And every time that she would essentially say, go say hi, which was her way of letting Gimlet sort of, be a dog, was just so, like, it was adorable. And the way she used it was so small. Like, I loved it.
And it's interesting because, again, I'm one of those authors who will read reviews, because I come out of theater, and it's like one of the ways you improve is by seeing what people have to say about it, both the things that they like and the things that they don't. And I don't take anything particularly personally. I mean, I'm careful about the day that I read things. Let me be clear. But I've seen a couple of people say that Gimlet was completely unbelievable as a service dog because of how much time she spent off duty. I'm like, you have clearly never encountered anyone with an actual service dog. Or if you have, like, they just had a really super different relationship with their service dog, because the go say hi is one of Captain's commands, and he's a stability dog. And it's one of the things that helps my mom is she has Parkinson's. She doesn't like people staring at her, and she can say, go say hi. And, in a situation where she's seated, and he will go over and all of the attention goes off of her. And it's a really valuable command for her.
That makes
And
sense.
so, and so I'm like, yeah, no, this is, and I am quite certain that this is a thing that some service dogs do.
Oh my gosh. Well, it is about, we only have like 15 minutes left, I think. So I'm going to start looking at these questions, but I have more too. Let's see. What was challenging about this book and what was delightful? Marie asks.
So challenging is it's a murder mystery. Lev, I don't know if you know, but murder mysteries are really hard to write.
It's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. I remember when I was writing Lavender House, I read something about Agatha Christie and how
I read the same thing.
Where she didn't decide until the end. And she was like, okay, I guess that one. And then, so I tried that and like, I figured it out about halfway through. And then I had to go back and fix everything, which is fine. But like, yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did change, and this is one of the things that is delightful, which is the same thing. I tried that as well. This is the second time I've tried it. And what I've learned is that for me, I pick who my bad guy is. And the thing that I discover at the end is who is assisting them, who their accomplice is.
Yeah, I don't want you to. I feel like you'll give away more if you talk more about it. So I'm gonna.
No.
I'm gonna put kibosh on that question. It's answered. Thank you, Marie. Victoria asks, "What side character do you wish you got to spend more time with?"
Fantine. Fantine is the lawyer who curses or has these long, incredibly convoluted insults and cursing, all based around either Shakespeare or Catholic saints. And uses crochet as a weapon. I loved writing her. She was in more scenes and I had to tone her back because it was a little too much Fantine, according to my editor.
Passionately. Maybe it's just, she felt very like, as a native New Yorker, she felt very much like a native New Yorker to me. I don't know if that's intentional, but as someone also surrounded by lawyers at all times, family, friends, etc. Like, yeah, this is how lawyers talk when they're like done with everything.
Yeah. So I did not, when I first started writing her, I had a slightly different casting in my head. And then I watched Ted Lasso, and Rebecca from Ted Lasso, in my head, that would be my dream casting for Fantine now.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Let's see. These are all right. Some cocktail questions. I'm going to link these all together. Tell us about the process of gathering the cocktail recipes in the book. Did you make up a spare man cocktail? And then there was the answered one about what we were all drinking. So yeah.
So it was very painful to have to research these things.
Oh my God. My heart
some of the cocktail recipes I already knew. Corpse Reviver #2 is one of my favorite cocktails. So I had that, and then I knew Death in the Afternoon. I knew Choke Artist, and then early in the pandemic, before things were really like that first month. During lockdown, I decided to throw an online party. And so I sent people information on how to make cocktails. And I ran across one called The Obituary. And I was like, so then it was basically going through cocktail books and looking for ones that were thematically appropriate. And where I ran into problems was with the non-alcoholic ones, because they were all things like Shirley Temple, which is not thematic for... not so thematic. So I wound up making up a number of those. but just looking, it was like a lot of looking for recipes and then plugging them into chapters as appropriate. And no, I have not made a spearman cocktail. And now I feel like I was like, how did I not think of that?
I mean, I feel like you gotta. I feel like you gotta right now.
Yeah.
No.
I kind of feel like it's something with a chaser.
Yes, absolutely something with a chaser. I feel like, I mean, without getting into spoiler territory, there is sort of a vat. So you could make it, I would suggest something that's less clear. Maybe egg white.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I see where you're going with that. Huh. Well, there was a cocktail that when I was trying to make the orbital decay, I wanted to do a version of the aviation that used Lefroy for the smokiness. And it turns out that Lefroy and creme de violette turn a really, really ghastly color.
That doesn't surprise me because I have been attempting to make a lavender house cocktail and so we had some creme de violette. It made sense. It turns weird colors.
Yeah. It really, really does. Did I should send you the link to the red absinthe because I feel like
you told me about it Googling, but the place across the street didn't have any, sadly.
Okay.
What are you most proud of with the Spearman? That's a great question from Jesse.
What am I most proud of with the Spearman? It's a really good question. I think I'm probably most proud of the fact that I have a character that has chronic pain and that she asks for help sometimes. And that, that I feel like the modeling in that relationship between the way they navigate through, him being able to tell that she's in pain and waiting until she asks, is a balance that it's like we are made of narrative, and there's so much that we internalize from reading, and I am proud of putting that modeling out into the world, because that's how it is with my mom, and other people that I know, that it's like my grandmother, who lived to be 109, always said, just let me do until I can't do. And that's always the thing. Like, I'll see my mom struggling with something and I'm like, let her do. She didn't ask. Let her do. Be ready to catch her. But just let her do.
That's a great answer too. Let's see. We have all right. So I was sort of going to ask something similar here. Someone's asking, Patrick is asking when the next Lady Astronaut book is out and how many there'll be in the series. I wanted to know what it was like going from alt history sort of retro futurism to future retroism, sort of like they feel like this to me.
That was actually a deliberate choice. When I was early in my career, I knew that I wanted to write all over the map. So one of the things that I've been carefully doing is edging my fiction forward in time, and trying to train my readers to follow me. So I knew that jumping from Lady Astronaut into a science fiction, that was one of the reasons I was like, Thin Man in Space. It has this thing that I need, which is, it is unabashedly science fiction, but it has a retro feel, which links it to the Lady Astronaut books. So, so it was a really, really natural transition. The thing that was harder was the places that I let myself be soft with the science. Like, how does the HUD work? I'm like, I have no idea where that battery pack is. Like, what
That bothers
is happening? Like, what any of that is? I'm like, just no idea. No idea. I know there's got to be a battery pack. But just kind of like, I'm just gonna like, la, 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 don't look. I will carefully think about the centrifugal effect and exactly how big that spaceship is, but do not ask me how any of their subdermal systems work.
I hadn't thought of that, but I mean, maybe it's a very small battery.
I mean, that's something. So mom has DBS, deep brain stimulator, and one of the things that they say is every time they replace the battery is going to be smaller.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, isn't that?
You did say that was in the afterward that was like a big inspiration for Tesla's sort of pain controlling device. I'm not sure what the language there should be, but and it felt very natural in like a very interesting way. And reading that afterward was just so fascinating too. But in answer to Patrick's original question, when is the next Lady Astronaut? Will there be more?
So I'm contracted to write a fourth called The Martian Contingency. I thought it was going to come out next year. Tor has said that the earliest it could possibly come out is 2024. So we'll see. I don't know. I actually, it was going to come out this year, but then pandemic and just I slowed down on my writing. And then I thought next year, and now I will know when it comes out when they tell me it will. It's publishing in the post-pandemic world is very different.
Yeah. Lisa wants to know how the audiobook narration process differs between narrating your own book and someone else's.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Will Wheaton and I are going to do a conversation about that exact topic later. But that's much. We were recording that at the end of October, I think. The biggest difference is for me is that they let me record it from the first page proofs, because I don't care how carefully a book has been edited or proofed. I will always find mistakes in it when I narrate it. I don't care whose book it is. I don't care how long they've been dead. I will always find mistakes in it. This is true for every narrator. So knowing that, they let me record from the first pass page proofs. Most people I'm recording from the finished book. And the reason we do it for my first pass is that when I catch mistakes, I can change it in the narration, adjust it in the manuscript, and then send the manuscript in with those corrections in place.
I love that, because one of the things I always tell my students when I teach creative writing is if you are editing something, read it out loud. You will catch every mistake.
You will catch many mistakes, because when I am narrating it, I have already read it aloud, and I still find things.
And then we have one last question, hopefully enough time, which was for both of us. Last book you read and not written by each other that you loved.
Oh, because your book is actually the last book that I read. Do you have one?
You think? Yeah. Oh boy, where is it on my shelf? There it is. There we go. Fade Out by Joseph Hansen, which is a reprint. It's from 1969, 1970, and it is a noir that is that has a gay protagonist in 1969, 1970. He's an insurance investigator. It was a series. There are like 14 books, and they're being reissued right now, and they are amazing. Just beautiful writing.
Oh wow. When Franny Stands Up, which is not out yet, but is coming out soon, or coming out in November. It is it's a debut novel, and it is like, it feels like, to describe it this is Elsie, to describe it as the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel with magic is to do it a great disservice. It is set in the 1950s with a Jewish female comic. Hi. And that is where the similarity stops. It is so good. It deals with when Franny stands up, or when Franny stood up.
Galaxy has just given us the link.
Yeah, When Franny Stands Up by Eden Robbins. So good, so good. The one that's coming out slightly sooner is Mur Lafferty's Station Eternity, which is also a murder mystery in space, and it's really good. It's hilarious. The main character has this problem that it feels like every time she goes someplace, someone gets killed. Because every time she goes someplace, someone gets killed. It's like, and so she's moved to this space station where there are no humans in order to avoid it. And then humans show up and someone gets killed. It's great. Hi, can I help you? Oh, something you asked before about Elsie and the Buttons. If that had any influence, I started writing and was like, I think I had turned this in before Elsie. It was like really too late in the process before Elsie started using buttons. And if I had known, I would have, like, Gimlet would have used buttons. And I thought about going back, but it would have changed the plot fundamentally if I had given Gimlet the ability to use words.
I feel like Gimlet having the ability to use words would have changed a bunch of things.
Yeah. I am now considering writing something, however, with a button using cat and murder.
Yes. Real quick, Mary Robinette, you mentioned Mur Lafferty's Station Eternity. Guess what? We're doing also a virtual event tomorrow right now for Mur Lafferty for Station Eternity. Tune in, everyone.
Mur is wonderful, and it's a really good book. I blurbed it, and I love it. You all should come back for this.
I'm excited. That's on my TBR now.
It is time for us to take the random drawing. So I'm also taking into account the orders that have not been processed online, because I see we had some last minute ones during the event. Good job on you. For anyone who is listening ASMR style, I'm going to use dice to choose. So I hope you all get some D&D feels, because this is, and don't
Who's
get like, oh no, crit roll. All right, who's going to get the gimlet? Whoa, dice are going everywhere. All right, so for our surprise and number was number 4. Without giving last names, that is going to go to Len. Len, congratulations. Hey, Len. I am going to reach out to you and see if you're okay with giving out address, and I will get back to you about that one. So, yay, you win a gimlet.
Yay!
Fun.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Mary Robinette, Lev, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so sorry for starting late, but sometimes internet stuff and computers, gotta love them, right?
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having us. And everyone, please buy this book if you haven't already. It's so good. And also go watch The Thin Man.
Yes, and pre-order Lavender House, which is also like so tightly plotted and such a beautiful, like how you did such a tightly plotted murder mystery that is also a beautiful character study. Oh my God. It's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As a reminder, if you click the link below, they'll take you to our website where you can get the Spare Man and also pre-order Lavender House, both in the same click. Yay.
And you will get one of these.
I want one of those.
I'll send you one.
Real quick, was that your idea for those, or was that your publisher?
Not my publisher. I wish that we had. Actually, no, I don't. Because this was Donovan Beeson. The information is on all of the things. She's a friend of mine. Oh wait, I didn't. There's more. Like.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I hired her to make the logo because I was just going to do mission patches and I knew I wanted to do a brochure. And then she has a Patreon, Selvage, and does mail art ephemera, and just had what we used to call a moment. Like she also made luggage tags.
Oh my God. I want all of
Stationery.
this. So cool. Oh my God.
Is her Patreon still open?
Yeah, it's still open. I'm trying to talk her into doing a special offer so that if you there's Alessandra, thanks. She's doing Halloween stuff right now, but I'm trying to convince her that she needs to do a special offer so that people who've read the book can get the Selvage package.
So
But if you
for
go
everyone-
on, you can at least get all of the downloads.
Yeah, I want all of that, Mary, and I will send you the one bit of swag I have in exchange, which is just the La Montagne Cad postcard.
Ooh.
Yes, I want that. I do. Perfect. Gorgeous.
So
Gorgeous.
But yeah, getting 80 orders, you can fill out a form on my website, and I'll send you one of those too.
Oh, yay! Yeah, everyone who is watching us right now, either on replay or currently on Crowdcast, there's a link in the chat where you can also get that Patreon and hook them up, because that's wonderful art.
Yeah.
All right, Mary Robinette Lev, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. It's really
Have a
lovely
wonderful
chatting with
one.
you all. Bye.
Bye.